of this press event available to you after the call. It's live streaming on Facebook and Twitter. Anyone need to be allowed to record? All right. Well, we will get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for covering this important story. We're here to make an important announcement regarding the lawsuit brought by Sarah Medrano and the RISE Coalition, challenging racial profiling in Frederick County under the Sheriff's Department headed by Chuck Jenkins. We'll start off with Nick Taichi Steiner, who is a staff attorney with the ACLU of Maryland.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Steiner. I'm a staff attorney with the ACLU of Maryland. I'm here also with our legal director, Debbie Gian, and our partner, Brian Whitaker with the Nixon Peabody LLP law firm who partnered with us on the case. And we're here to talk about the momentous settlement agreement between our clients, Ms. Sarah Medrano, and the RISE Coalition, the Resources for Immigrant Support and Empowerment Coalition, with the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff of Frederick County, Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, has been vehemently anti-immigrant since the beginning of his tenure as sheriff, and has resulted in lawsuits where his deputies have engaged in unconstitutional and illegal behavior. Last year, a 10-year lawsuit, the Roxana Oriana Santos case had settled, and today Ms. Sarah Medrano's lawsuit is settling for almost identical misconduct committed by deputies in Sheriff Jenkins' office. A quick background on the case. Mrs. Medrano is a Latina woman and longtime resident of Frederick County. She was pulled over in July 2018 for what the sheriff's deputies claimed was a broken taillight, even though it turned out her taillights were working just fine, and was held on the side of the road for about an hour while the deputies tried to get immigration to come and arrest her. Today's settlement with the office is a breath of fresh air and accountability for the misconduct of the sheriff's office committed against Ms. Medrano, and against other immigrants in Frederick County and members of the RISE Coalition. The settlement includes $25,000 in damages for Ms. Medrano, $100,000 in attorney's fees and costs paid to the plaintiffs, an apology letter directly from Sheriff Jenkins apologizing for what his deputies had done to her, to Ms. Medrano, and a commitment to ensure that it doesn't happen again to anybody else. The settlement also is including training of the officers that they're hiring and all deputies of the new policies that would prevent any kind of hold or detention or arrest based on any kind of immigration related issue, basically to prevent what happened to Ms. Medrano and other immigrants in Frederick County. And then there are some transparency measures, including making available reports about bias-based policing and immigration profiling, statistical information, and a continuation of the 287G steering committee meetings that have happened in the past that didn't happen last year, but moving forward, those meetings will be held and will provide a place for the public to hear and to speak with Sheriff Jenkins. We're grateful that the Sheriff's Office agreed to settle this case. We hope that similar misconduct committed by the Sheriff's Office is a thing of the past, but we won't stop holding the Sheriff's Office accountable to the people of Frederick County. And the immigrants in Frederick County are here to stay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Next, we will hear from, oops, I was muted, sorry. Next, we will hear from Flora Garay, who is with the RISE Coalition.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Flor Caray. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the members of the Rights Coalition of Western Maryland, known as La Coalición. I'm here today to denounce the numerous civil violations that members of the immigrant community in Frederick County have been subject to while under the Sheriff Jenkins' control and administration of the 287G program. We have seen a pattern in practice by the Frederick County Sheriff's Office that deliberately discriminates against immigrants of color. What happened to Rosana Orellano Santos in 2008 was unwarranted. Rosana was simply eating her lunch during her work break when Frederick County sheriffs illegally detained her and placed her in handcuffs while they investigated her immigration status. What regularly happens to Mr. AG, another member of the immigrant community, is simply an act of racism by the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. Over the last 2 years, Mr. AG has been stopped at least 7 times and questioned about his immigration status because of the color of his skin. This is unfair and must stop. Racial profiling of immigrants of color is illegal. I really wish that we did not have to be here today. I really wish that Ms. Medrano had never been subject to an illegal seizure by Frederick County Sheriff's Office deputies. Ms. Medrano did nothing wrong on the afternoon of July 7, 2018. Ms. Medrano was simply driving to a friend's house when she was detained with her children in the car for more than an hour. There are no words to comfort and to repair the fear, humiliation, and emotional distress suffered by Ms. Medrano and her children. Because of the legal administration of the 287G program in Frederick County, many undocumented immigrants live in constant fear of deportation and the ultimate separation from their families. The trauma suffered as consequence of the legal acts committed by the Frederick County Sheriff's Office deputies are scarring our children's mental and emotional well-being. No children in Frederick County should have to live under the fear of their parents' deportation, not by the institution that promises to protect and serve all the residents in Frederick County. It is so disturbing to know that Sheriff Jenkins' anti-immigrant rhetoric has translated into the practice of an anti-immigrant policing in Frederick County. No resident of Frederick County should have to fear reporting crimes because they fear police retaliation. The immigrant communities, like all other communities, deserve the equal protection of the law. I commend nuestra compañera, Ms. Medrano, for standing up for her rights, for the rights of the community members who have been profiled and discriminated against by the Frederick County Sheriff's Office. Ms. Medrano, I want you to know that today is a significant day for the entire immigrant community because you are setting the record clear that racial profiling and discrimination by Frederick County Sheriff's Office will not be tolerated. Thank you, Ms. Medrano, for your ganas to keep going despite all adversity. Thank you, Ms. Medrano, for all of your tears and all of your courage to stand up for yourself and for your family. Thank you, SCLU attorneys, Nicholas Steiner, Brian Whitaker, for your legal advocacy and hard work defending the individual rights and liberties of the people. We are the Rights Coalition of Western Maryland, and we'll continue to fight for the equal and fair treatment of our community members. Thank you. I'm now going to say in Spanish. Just a moment, please. Mi nombre es Flor Garay. Gracias por la oportunidad de hablar de parte de los miembros de la coalición Levántate. Estoy aquí el día de hoy para denunciar todas las numerosas violaciones civiles a los que han sido sometidos los miembros de la comunidad inmigrante en el condado de Frederick, bajo la administración del programa 287G por el alguacil Jenkins. Hemos visto una práctica por la oficina del alguacil del condado de Frederick que discrimina deliberadamente a los inmigrantes de color. Lo que le sucedió a Rosana Orellano Santos en 2008 fue injustificado. Rosana simplemente estaba almorzando durante su receso laboral cuando el alguacil de la oficina del condado de Frederick la detuvieron ilegalmente y la esposaron mientras investigaban su estado migratorio. Lo que sucede regularmente al señor AG, otro miembro de la comunidad inmigrante, es simplemente un acto racista de parte de la oficina del alguacil del condado de Frederick. Durante los últimos 2 años, el señor AG ha sido detenido al menos 7 veces por alguaciles en Frederick, simplemente por el color de su piel. Esto no es justo y debe parar. La discriminación racial de inmigrantes de color es ilegal. Realmente, como desearía que no estuviéramos aquí el día de hoy, que la señora Medrano nunca hubiera sido sometida a una detención ilegal por parte de la oficina de los alguaciles del condado de Frederick. La señora Medrano hizo nada malo en la tarde del 7 de julio del 2018. La señora Medrano simplemente estaba conduciendo hacia la casa de una amiga cuando fue detenida con sus hijos ilegalmente por más de 1 hora. No existen las palabras para consolar y reparar el miedo, la humillación y la angustia emocional que sufrió y continúa sufriendo la señora Medrano y sus hijos. Debido a la administración ilegal del programa 287G en el condado de Frederick, muchos inmigrantes indocumentados viven con el temor constante de ser deportados y de la separación de nuestros niños. Ningún niño en el condado de Frederick debería de tener que vivir bajo el temor de la deportación de sus padres, no por la institución que promete proteger y servir a todos los residentes del condado de Frederick. Es perturbante saber que la retórica antimigrante del alguacil Jenkins ha traducido en la práctica de vigilancia policial contra los inmigrantes. Ningún residente del condado de Frederick debe tener miedo de denunciar delitos por temor a represalias policiales. Las comunidades de inmigrantes, como todas las demás comunidades, merecen la misma protección bajo la ley. Felicito a nuestra señora compañera, la señora Medrano, por defender sus derechos, los derechos de otros miembros de la comunidad que también han sido perfilados y discriminados por la oficina alguacil del condado de Frederick. Señora Medrano, quiero que usted sepa que hoy es un día muy importante para toda la comunidad inmigrante porque está dejando claro que no toleraremos el perfil racial ni la discriminación de parte de la oficina del alguacil del condado de Frederick. Gracias, señora Medrano, por sus ganas por seguir adelante a pesar de todas las adversidades. Gracias por todas sus lágrimas y por su coraje por defender y por defender a su familia. Gracias al abogado de ASLU, a Nicolás Steiner y a Brian Whitaker por su defensa legal y su arduo trabajo defendiendo los derechos y libertades individuales de las personas. Nosotros somos la coalición Levántate y continuaremos luchando por el trato equitativo y justo de todos los miembros de nuestra comunidad. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Flor. I really appreciate you sharing your remarks both in English and Spanish today. Next, we will hear from Nadine Milian, who is going to speak on behalf of Miss Sarah Medrano today.
Hi, first I wanted to say, if you all hear dogs, I'm sorry, I have 2 of them. My name is Nadine Milian. I'm from the ACLU of Maryland. I'm here to read the words of Sarah Medrano. Sarah Medrano said, "It's not right what they did to me. I believe there is racism within the police force. It is not just what they are doing against Hispanic people. We are all equal in this country." I'll also put her quote in the chat and I will repeat in Spanish. Hola, soy Nadine Milian, soy la escritora de ACLU de Maryland. Estoy aquí para leer las palabras de Sarah Medrano. Sarah Medrano dijo, "Es injusto lo que hicieron contra mí. Yo creo que hay un racismo dentro de la policía. No es justo lo que están haciendo contra la gente hispana. Todos somos iguales en este país." También voy a poner sus palabras en el chat. Si tienen preguntas, por favor, díganme al final. Tenemos una persona aquí que puede dar respuestas en español. Se llama Flor Garay. Ella es de la organización Rise o Levántate. Voy a poner su nombre en el chat también. Gracias. I'm done.
Nadine, would you mind reading it one more time in English because the video wasn't on your face?
Yeah, sure. Sarah Medrano said, "It's not right what they did to me. I believe there is racism within the police force. It is not just what they're doing against Hispanic people. We are all equal in this country."
Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from Brian Whitaker. Let me pull up, who is co-counsel in this case and also was involved in the representation of Ms. Santos as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Whitaker, counsel at Nixon Peabody in Washington, D.C. And this is a great win for Ms. Medrano, Rise, and the Frederick community as a whole. And I really admire the strength and courage of Ms. Medrano and Rise coming forward to challenge injustice in this case. We represented Roxana Oriana Santos in her similar case against Sheriff Jenkins in Frederick County. Unfortunately, it took more than 10 years to resolve Roxana's case. But due to the similarities between her case and Ms. Medrano's, I think it's likely that Sheriff Jenkins and Frederick County saw the writing on the wall and were quick to settle this case, resulting in additional positive changes to rogue immigration enforcement and racial profiling policies of the Sheriff's Office, greater transparency, and a formal apology and compensation for Ms. Medrano. Again, I can't say enough about how courageous and how much strength these people have shown in coming forward in this case, and I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to represent them.
Thank you so much, Brian. And now we will take any questions. You can put your questions in the chat, or you can briefly unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, this is Mike Murillo at WTOP. Can we get some background on both cases? Just some background on what took place for both the Santos case and the most recent one, just to get some background on them.
Brian, do you want to go ahead and talk about the Santos case, and I can give a recap about what happened to Miss Medrano?
Yes. Roxana was detained and arrested in 2008. She was sitting outside of her place of work at the time, behind it, eating a sandwich, and she was approached by two deputies at the Frederick County Sheriff's Office who asked her many questions for an extended period of time. They found out that there was a civil warrant for related to civil immigration warrant for her, and they arrested her on the spot. She spent 35 days in prison before she was released for humanitarian reasons. And it took 10 years since that point in time until in 2020, earlier last year, that we resolved the case with Frederick County and the Sheriff's Office. In 2013, there was an excellent opinion from the Fourth Circuit, which concluded that the deputies had unlawfully seized Ms. Oriana Santos when they took her into custody because they didn't have any basis to arrest her for any criminal violation, and they had no authority to enforce civil immigration law. And since that time, we received another opinion from the District Court of Maryland in 2018, which confirmed that not only have the deputies violated Roxana's constitutional rights, but the county was liable for the violation of her rights because the county, under the direction of the sheriff, who implemented policies for criminal enforcement and law enforcement in Frederick County, had instituted a policy that resulted in the actions that violated Roxana's rights.
And with Miss Medrano, very similar incident that happened to her, although Miss Medrano was able to kind of find justice in her case because of a lot of the work and struggle that came through Miss Oriana Santos's case. But with Miss Medrano, she was pulled over by a sheriff's deputy in July 2018. She was held on the side of the road for about an hour when the deputy was attempting to get a hold of ICE to come and arrest her because she had a immigration issue, and so the deputy took it upon himself to try and get ICE to come and arrest her. But Miss Medrano has had no traffic tickets to speak of. She's never been pulled over. She's never gotten a ticket for speeding or for anything. And ICE decided that it wasn't worth their time to come and arrest her. So essentially the sheriff's deputies held her on the side of the road for no reason, no legal reason. The broken tail light issue turned out to be false. Her tail lights were working perfectly fine. And Miss Medrano had concluded, as did we, that the basis for her stop had nothing to do with the taillights, and that was just an excuse. And the real reason was because she is Latina. And the officers may have, I can't get into their heads, but may have pulled her over because of a racial animus against Latinx people. And then another plaintiff in the lawsuit was the RISE Coalition. And we, over the last 10 years of Sheriff Jenkins' tenure as sheriff, there's been a pattern and practice of targeting immigrants of color. And one of the individuals that Floor spoke of, his initials are AG, he is a US citizen and was pulled over numerous times because he is a Latinx man. And so it is not just these isolated incidents where you have Miss Roxana Oriana Santos and Miss Medrano who are being pulled over. There are immigrants of color all across Frederick County who are being harassed by the sheriff's office. And so the RISE Coalition joined the lawsuit in order to stop that pattern in practice. And what we were able to secure in this settlement agreement is training and other transparency of the practices of the sheriff's office so that we can continue, the RISE Coalition can continue to hold Sheriff Jenkins and his office accountable to the immigrants of color in Frederick County.
A quick follow-up on the Santos settlement. So I think that, if I'm not mistaken, it was a $100,000 settlement. And what did anything else come with that when it comes to policies or training with that settlement?
Yes, there was some policy changes as well as attorney's fees associated with the case. So the policy changes were primarily related to racial profiling and bias-based profiling. Policy tweaks on those policies to try and dissuade deputies of the sheriff's office from profiling immigrants, as well as the policies to stop enforcement of civil immigration law by the deputies without federal authority.
All right. So in your mind, was anything violated in this one? Were any of those policies that were agreed to before violated in this current case, the most recent?
Well, unfortunately, Ms. Medrano's case, the incident in which she was pulled over, occurred in 2018, and that was before we actually got the settlement in Ms. Santos' case. So the policy changes had not gone into effect when the incident happened with Ms. Medrano.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Dominique Benessi from WAMU. I wanted to take a step back here. Frederick County Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, I mean, during this lawsuit, I believe, spoke very much about his views on immigration and immigration reform in this country. There was a lot in 2019 that he had said regarding Montgomery County's policy of not having the 287G program. And what we're looking like right now with the current administration that just came into effect yesterday is that we may be seeing reforms within immigration policy in this country. We might be seeing a pathway to citizenship that seems to be on the minds of many of those who are here undocumented. I guess my question, and this can be for either the lawyers or legislate, I don't know if we have any legislative folks, but is there sort of a hope that this sort of thing can stop happening now because there's this impetus to actually try to get laws on the books that actually help people become citizens in this country? I mean, are we going to start seeing, is there a light at the end of the tunnel here, I'm asking?
I can answer that, or give my opinion, I guess. So I guess it can only get better. I think one of the main challenges, and this doesn't necessarily come with the change in the federal administration, the national administration, with Biden coming into office, is that Sheriff Chuck Jenkins is still sheriff in Frederick County, and his views on immigrants has unlikely to have changed significantly, although organizations like the RISE Coalition are there as the check, and they're there to provide accountability for when the sheriff's office oversteps their legal bounds. And that goes for other sheriffs in the state too, who have 287G agreements, that there are people, there are organizations, there are coalitions that are standing up for the immigrant community. And even if the direction at the top changes the behavior of ICE, that doesn't necessarily change the way that local law enforcement operates. And so that accountability and watchdog job still exists. And one other thing I'd like to add also is that in the Maryland State Legislature, the Trust Act is again up on the table. And so the Trust Act would, for the entire state, change what and make clear what local law enforcement is and isn't allowed to do. And it would definitely, through law, prevent this kind of behavior that occurred here with Ms. Medrano and with Ms. Roxana Oriana Santos.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Mary Grace Keller from the Frederick News Post. Sorry if I sound a little muffled, I'm wearing a mask. You mentioned there's been a practice and a pattern of racism or racial profiling by the sheriff's office. So to me, that sounds like there may be other immigrants who have had their rights violated. Are there more lawsuits coming?
Well, I think in terms of, I mean, this settlement doesn't prevent future lawsuits from happening if other immigrants have been had their rights violated. But in terms of past pattern and practice, the case is settled, and we're moving forward. Since there is a new policy on the books through the Santos litigation, the next step, I guess, is to make sure that that policy is followed, and that immigrants of color are not being stopped or arrested or detained in violation of that new policy.
Thank you. So how do you ensure that that policy is followed?
So the RISE Coalition is very much in touch and embedded in the immigrant community in Frederick County. In the lawsuit, we named only a few people, but there have been a very large number of people who have had discriminatory encounters with the sheriff's office. So I think the next big step in terms of holding the sheriff's office accountable is being really in touch with the immigrant community in Frederick County and hearing directly from them.
Thank you. And is that policy change you mentioned, is that included in the release, or is that something that could be provided to us?
There are some details in the press release, and also we put in the chat a link to both the press release page and the legal case page for Ms. Medrano and the RISE case, which has all the settlement documents directly, including the apology from Sheriff Jenkins.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? And I do want to mention that in the chat, there are links to, again, the legal case page for this case, the press release for announcing this settlement, as well as some background information about Sarah Medrano, including a video put out by RISE members recounting her story. So that's all content that you could pull from for your story. And I've also put the email address where you can reach me after this press event if you have any follow-up questions for any of the panelists or about the legal case. Are there any other questions? Just let it sit for a minute before we close, just in case something occurs. All right. Well, I really want to thank Ms. Sarah Medrano and the RISE Coalition for all of your leadership on this issue, and all of our speakers today. Again, reach out to me at media@aclu-md.org if you have any follow-up questions. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon. All right, we just have our core team. Hi, Amber.